Let me tell you something real. Your life will never rise above the way you think about it. Not your money, not your connections, not your education, not your past. Your attitude sets the ceiling. I've seen people with every advantage handed to them still live small because their mindset was small. And I've seen people with nothing, no support, no resources, no safety net climb higher than anyone expected because they refused to think like victims. The difference wasn't opportunity. The difference was attitude. You can put two people in the exact same situation, same struggle, same pressure, same pain, and one will break while the other builds. One will complain, the other will adjust. One will say, "Why me?" while the other says, "Try me." That right there determines everything. Because life doesn't just test your skills, it tests your spirit. And if your attitude collapses the moment things get hard, your dream collapses with it. Some of you are waiting for conditions to change before you change your mindset. You're saying, when things get better, I'll be positive. When I get support, I'll believe. When the opportunity comes, I'll step up. No. Winners flip that. They bring the attitude first, and the circumstances catch up later. You don't wait for light to appear, you become the spark. You don't wait for doors to open. You start knocking with so much force that something has to move. Your attitude is the engine. Talent is just the vehicle. Without the engine, you're not going anywhere. You can be gifted, intelligent, even passionate, but if your mindset is weak, pressure will expose it every time. Because success is heavy, responsibility is heavy, growth is heavy, and only a strong attitude can carry that weight without folding. And listen, attitude isn't about pretending life is easy. It's about deciding that hard will not stop you. It's waking up tired and still showing up. It's getting rejected and still believing. It's failing and saying, "Run it back." It's understanding that the world doesn't owe you understanding, applause, or a smooth road, but you owe yourself effort, discipline, and belief. Some people walk into a challenge already defeated. Their body is there, but their spirit checked out before the fight even started. They've already told themselves they can't win, so they don't. Meanwhile, someone else walks in with scars, doubts, and fear, but also with fire. And that fire changes everything, because attitude doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects how you perform. It sharpens your focus. It fuels your persistence. It keeps you swinging long after everyone else put their gloves down. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Nobody can give you this. Nobody can inject belief into you. Nobody can install hunger in you. That switch is inside. You flip it. You decide that average is not your story. You decide that your past doesn't get to vote on your future. You decide that no matter how many times life knocks you down, you will stand up one more time than you fall. Because altitude isn't given, it's earned inch by inch through mindset. Every time you refuse to quit, you rise. Every time you choose growth over excuses, you rise. Every time you respond with discipline instead of emotion, you rise. It may not be dramatic, it may not be fast, but it is inevitable. So stop asking what you have and start asking how you think. Stop measuring your chances and start measuring your resolve. Stop waiting for confidence and start acting with courage. Because the moment your attitude shifts, your direction shifts, and when your direction shifts, your destination changes. Your attitude doesn't just influence your life, it defines how high you will go. Everybody wants the reward, but very few people sign up for the cost. Everybody loves the idea of winning, but they don't love what winning requires. Because success will ask you for something, your comfort, your sleep, your certainty, your ego, and it will keep asking until you either grow or you quit. And that's where the separation happens. Not at the start line, not when it's exciting, not when people are clapping. The separation happens in the pain. Pain is part of the process, not a detour, not a mistake, not a punishment, the process. You don't build strength without resistance. You don't build endurance without exhaustion. You don't build character without pressure. Yet the moment life starts squeezing, most people tap out. They say it's too hard, too unfair, too much. But the truth is, it's just unfamiliar. Growth always feels uncomfortable because you're leaving behind the version of you that could only survive easy. Some of you thought the struggle meant you were on the wrong path. No, sometimes the struggle is proof you finally stepped onto the right one. Easy roads don't create powerful people. Easy roads create fragile people. People who break the moment conditions change. But when you've suffered, when you've pushed through days you didn't think you could survive, when you've kept moving with nothing left in the tank, that builds something inside you that nobody can take away. And here's the dangerous part about pain. It talks to you. It whispers, stop, rest, you've done enough, nobody will blame you. It sounds reasonable. It sounds compassionate. But if you listen too long, it becomes permanent. Because quitting doesn't just stop the effort. It trains your mind to run every time things get uncomfortable. The next challenge feels heavier. The next obstacle looks bigger. Not because it is, but because you taught yourself that retreat is an option. Champions don't have less pain, they just have a different relationship with it. They don't see it as an enemy, they see it as a signal. Sore muscles mean growth. Rejection means refinement. Failure means feedback. They don't ask, how do I avoid this? They ask, what is this trying to make me into? That shift in attitude turns suffering into fuel instead of a wall. There will be mornings when your body begs you to stay down. Nights when doubt sits on your chest, so heavy you can barely breathe. Moments when you question whether any of this is worth it. In those moments, motivation won't save you, inspiration won't carry you, only commitment will. Only the decision you made when you were clear, headed and strong, the decision that you will not abandon yourself when it gets hard. Because pain has an expiration date. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be soon, but it ends quitting, though quitting rewrites your story. It leaves a permanent what if echoing in your mind. It steals not just the result, but the person you could have become on the way there. Temporary discomfort versus permanent regret. That's the real choice in front of you every time things get tough. And don't wait to feel fearless. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's movement in spite of it. It's showing up shaking. It's trying again embarrassed, it's pushing forward uncertain. Strength isn't loud. Most of the time, it looks like quiet persistence, one more step, one more attempt, one more day of refusing to give up. So when the pain comes, and it will, don't panic. Don't interpret it as failure. Recognize it as the price of admission to a higher version of yourself. Breathe through it, learn from it, outlast it. Because the people who change their lives aren't the ones who never hurt. They're the ones who refuse to surrender while hurting. Stay in the fight long enough, and the pain that once tried to break you will become the proof that you couldn't be broken. Life is not going to ask you for permission before it hits you. It's not going to send a warning email. It's not going to check if you're ready, and it definitely doesn't care about your plans. One day, everything feels stable, and the next day something shifts, a loss, a rejection, a betrayal, a closed door you were sure would open. And in that moment, you realize something powerful and uncomfortable at the same time. You don't control what happens to you, but you absolutely control what happens in you. Most people waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable. They argue with reality, they replay the past, they obsess over fairness. Why did this happen? Why me? Why now? But those questions don't move you forward, they trap you in place. Because while you're focused on what you can't change, you're neglecting the one thing that could change everything, your response. Your reaction is your power. Not the event, not the circumstance, not the people involved, your response. Two people can experience the same failure, and one uses it as a foundation while the other uses it as an excuse. Two people can hear the same criticism, and one grows while the other shuts down. The difference isn't what happened. The difference is what they decided it meant. When you give your emotions full control, your life becomes unpredictable. You're up when things go well, down when they don't, strong when praised, shattered when ignored. But when you take ownership of your reactions, you become steady, grounded, dangerous in the best way, because now the world can't manipulate your direction just by changing your conditions. Listen, responsibility is not about blame, it's about power. Blame looks outward and says, "They did this to me." Responsibility looks inward and says, "This will not define me." Blame makes you a passenger. Responsibility puts you in the driver's seat, and you cannot steer a life you refuse to take ownership of. Some of you are still waiting for closure, for apologies, for someone to admit they were wrong. You're waiting for validation before you allow yourself to move forward. But healing and growth don't come from other people finally understanding you. They come from you deciding that your future matters more than your past pain. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need consensus to change. You just need the courage to stop handing your power to things you cannot control. There will be storms you didn't create, consequences you didn't choose, situations you would never volunteer for. But even then, you still have authority over your mindset, your effort, your integrity, your next step. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sails, and sometimes that adjustment is the difference between drifting aimlessly and reaching a destination you once thought was impossible. Strong people aren't strong because life has been gentle with them. They're strong because they decided that no matter what happened, they would not abandon themselves. They refused to let bitterness replace vision. They refused to let anger replace discipline. They refused to let disappointment rewrite their identity. And let's be real, controlling yourself is harder than controlling anything else. It's easier to point fingers than to look in the mirror. It's easier to complain than to correct. It's easier to react than to respond with intention. But easy paths don't lead to powerful lives. Mastery starts within. When you can command your thoughts, your actions, your focus, you become unshakable even in chaos. So stop waiting for life to calm down before you step up. Stop telling yourself you'll be strong when circumstances improve. Strength is built in the storm, not in the sunshine. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, growth over comfort, purpose over pride, you reclaim a piece of your power. You may not control the hand you were dealt, but you control how you play it. And the moment you stop asking for a different hand and start playing the one you have with courage, intelligence, and relentless determination, everything begins to change. Control yourself, and you control your destiny. You ever notice how one person can walk into a room and change the temperature without touching the thermostat? They don't have to say a word, you just feel it. Some people walk in carrying doubt, fear, negativity, and suddenly everything feels heavy. Conversations slow down, energy drops, people shrink, but then someone else walks in with purpose in their step, fire in their eyes, belief in their chest, and the whole atmosphere lifts. That's not luck, that's energy, and your attitude is the generator. Whether you realize it or not, you are broadcasting all day long. Your posture, your tone, your focus, your reactions, they're signals. They tell the world who you believe you are. If you move like you're defeated, people treat you like you're defeated. If you show up uncertain, opportunities pass you by because uncertainty doesn't inspire confidence. But when you carry yourself with quiet intensity, with discipline, with conviction, people respond differently. Doors don't just open because you asked politely. They open because your presence makes others believe you're ready to walk through them. And here's the deeper truth. You don't just affect rooms. You affect people. Your family feels your energy. Your team feels it. Your friends feel it. If you're constantly complaining, constantly negative, constantly focused on what's wrong, you train everyone around you to operate at that lower frequency. But if you choose gratitude, effort, and determination, you elevate the standard. You make average uncomfortable. You make excuses sound weak. You don't have to preach. Your example does the talking. Leaders understand this, even if they don't hold a title. Leadership is not about position. It's about influence, and influence comes from consistency. Anyone can be positive when things are easy. Anyone can be confident when they're winning. But the person who stays composed under pressure, who keeps showing up with intensity when results are slow, who refuses to spread panic when things go wrong, that person becomes a stabilized force. People look at them and think, if they're not shaken, maybe we don't have to be either. Your energy also shapes your own environment in a powerful way. When you show up ready to work, focused, disciplined, you start attracting people who operate the same way. You begin to notice opportunities that were always there but invisible to a distracted mind. Your standards rise, and suddenly the spaces that once felt comfortable feel too small. It's not that the world changed, you did, but this isn't about being loud or fake or forcing positivity. Real energy comes from alignment. It comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you're working toward. It's calm but intense, quiet but undeniable. You don't need to announce it. People sense it, and once they sense it, they either rise to meet it or they move out of the way. Some of you are waiting for external motivation to light you up. You're waiting for someone to hype you, support you, believe in you first. But true power is self-generated. It's waking up and deciding, today I bring the standard. It's walking into spaces not asking, what can I get? But declaring through your actions, this is what excellence looks like. When you become that consistent source, you stop depending on circumstances to determine your mood or your effort. And don't underestimate how far that ripple travels. One disciplined person can shift a team. One focused person can change a family's trajectory. One determined person can inspire people they may never even meet. Energy multiplies. Attitude spreads. What you carry doesn't stay contained. It leaks into everything you touch. So ask yourself honestly, when you show up, do you drain or do you drive? Do you lower the bar or raise it? Do people feel heavier after being around you, or do they feel sharper, clearer, more capable? Because your presence is either a liability or an asset, there is no neutral. You don't need permission to become that force. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need applause. You just need the decision that wherever you go, you will bring discipline, belief, and relentless effort with you. Day after day, room after room, challenge after challenge, because when your energy is right, your environment can't stay wrong for long.